Hey, I'm wearing my flowered shirt. That's how you know that we're going to be talking about something special today.
It's going to be a great discussion today. How do you become the fittest, baddest product manager ever?
The baddest dude?
The peakest dude.
I prefer bad dudes because there's that old like 80s video game. Well, we got off track real early in this podcast. All right, so we're going to look at this article today. It was written about 5 years ago called How to Become a Peak Product Manager. I'm going to put it on the screen for all you folks viewing it. Written by Ravi Metta. Not like Meta, the company. It's spelled completely differently. And with 100% less accusations. Coming to a podcast near you soon. But how to be a peak product manager. In this article, he gives several competencies of a product manager, and I figured that's what we're going to do. We're just going to basically peruse the article, look through the competencies, and kind of debate them back and forth. Nice quick podcast today. Ravi Metta's background. Let's talk about that for 1 second. So his background, he started his career as a program manager at Microsoft back in the dark times, before the empire. Well, the dark times were not before the empire.
Yeah, back in the dark times, 1998.
And then he worked for BCG. Then he was a COO, Chief Operating Officer. And then he was an advisor. He jumped into a VP of product role. He cooked fries, made milkshakes. He did his own stunts. So VP of customer experience. And then he was the Chief Product Officer at Tinder. So that's the career path for everyone playing the game, listening along, you need to do.
It's quite a journey.
Yeah, he kind of has worked everywhere, and now he's an angel investor. So I guess that's the LinkedIn way of telling everyone you are rich.
Cool beans.
You're making the editing harder right now.
Yeah.
So let's dive straight into his article. So he says, years ago, he met an early PM at Microsoft who helped him develop what we think of product management today. Wow, that's quite a claim right there. But he says she told him that as a PM at Microsoft, which is a program manager, which is weird. So I guess program managers and product managers are the same thing. That's his statement.
Maybe they were back then. I don't know.
I'm not even trying to get into the history lesson. He says, you're like the mortar in a brick wall. Like mortar, you must fluidly fill the gaps between bricks to make the whole wall stronger.
Solid.
So he says the best PM. So this is his advice on the best PMs. So I don't know how sassy I want to be in this podcast.
Why stop now?
We're going to get the opinion of someone who's never been an individual contributor product manager in his life about what it takes to be a great product manager.
What can go wrong?
All right. The amount of times that this image has been reused by people, though, and that the fact that it's permeated the meta means that like it needs to be addressed. Like whether he actually knows what he's talking about or not, we're just going to skip right over that and say it doesn't matter. This image is part of the culture. We're going to talk about it. Okay?
Yep.
So let's dig in. He says he's codified the skills that it takes to be a really great PM into 12 competencies. He's organized those 12 competencies into 4 areas. And those 4 areas, again, for those people that are listening, I'm going to go ahead and throw the image that he has in his blog here on the screen. The 4 main competencies are product execution, customer insight, product strategy, and influencing people.
In no particular order.
In no particular order at all. So under that, he has 3 subgroups of topics. Okay, and we're just going to follow his. We're going to follow his outline here, and we're just going to go through the article because he breaks each one down, level of importance. So I have a few questions to bound this podcast, and that's how we're going to move forward. My questions are: do product managers really need this skill, in our opinion? Because he's saying these are the competencies. The wheel by which product managers are judged. You break a deal, you spin the wheel. That's the Tina Turner rules that we follow on the podcast. How like, do they really need this skill? Like, is it real? Do they really need it?
That's a great question.
How often will they use it in their position, bounded by their position? Do they have the ability to coach on this skill? Which will be a less important question for individual contributor PMs, maybe.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, let's go to the first category, product execution. So he says the foundation of successful product management is the ability to work with a cross-functional team to define, build, and launch well-designed, stable products. Peak PMs. I like it. I'm peaking.
Yeah, peaking PMs. Peaking's a journey.
They strive to execute flawlessly. They know there's already enough risk in understanding customer needs and crafting strategy around those needs. They can't afford forced errors, which is weird because that means there's such thing as a forced error.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's weird.
So execution. So we're going straight into execution. And the way he laid out his thesis here is by having a spectrum of, I guess it's a spectrum of experience within product.
Right.
And then some kind of a color coding scheme where the colors fade out.
I think it's either relevance or ability or expertise. I'm not quite sure. He never really gives a legend. For the people listening to this, he has 3 breakdowns under the product execution category. We're starting with product execution because that's like most people listen to the podcast. That's where they are. That's their swim lane.
Right.
So he has 3 subcategories in here. He has feature specification, product delivery, and product quality assurance. So product delivery, that's exactly what it sounds like. Product, your ability to quickly deliver product functionality that accomplishes certain goals that have been spelled out. That's delivery. Product quality assurance is any technical issues, bugs, that kind of stuff. Keeping the software and the features that you're delivering quality. And the last one, feature specification, is the ability to take things that you're being told in story form and actually break them into larger containers of features that can be delivered. The juicy stuff is asking, okay, so let's start with product delivery. That's the easiest one.
Sure.
So under product execution, product delivery, he's got the APM sort of grayed out, the director and the senior director sort of grayed out, and the VP is completely
grayed out.
Yeah. So he has several categories on here. I guess also, well, first, to back up for a second and start, I'm showing on the screen now for everyone seeing it. He has 6 different levels on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He has 7 different levels on here. Now, this probably aligns with the Silicon Valley leveling system where you come in as an APM out of the MBA pipeline through school, and then you become a solid individual contributor. You can stand on your own and do stuff and be trusted or whatever, but not that trusted. And then the senior PM is the real individual contributor. The group product manager has some kind of team lead supervisory function where they're not really a manager. And then the director is the people leader, hiring teams of people, that kind of stuff. Senior director is the director of directors, and then VP would be like the equivalent of our chief product officer type thing. So for the purposes of this podcast, we don't need 17 billion different categories right there. We really only need 3 main divisions of product management. We need the individual contributor PM, no matter if they're APM, PM, senior PM. We need a product leader, meaning they directly supervise people. Right. Whether they hire people or they're just in a lead capacity, it doesn't really matter if they're group PM, director, that kind of thing. And we need a VP/CPO level.
Basically exec or leadership level.
Yeah. We need those 3 levels. So we're going to reinterpret on the fly for the future of this discussion all of his levels to IC, product leader, CPO. Those are our like simplicity levels. So for product delivery, he says this is mainly an IC thing with a little bit of the product leaders doing it, and then it's gone at the CPO level, product delivery.
I think if he's coming at it from the perspective of ability, APM, they're green, basically junior people, right? Okay, I can go with that. ICs, we're looking at ICs here, right? So maybe as you progress from the lowest level on the spectrum here that is laid out, APM, toward PM and a senior PM, you're now becoming more and more proficient, is how I'm interpreting that at product delivery.
I'm fine with his levels for product delivery. He says, hey, when you're an APM, you're junior at this. Even if we transfer to our levels and you lose a little bit in the translation to say, a PM should be good at this. And then as you get further up into director or senior director or stuff like that, it's okay for them to not really know how to work with engineering teams, design, that the holy trinity from Marty Kagan, right?
Right.
So we both agree. We're kind of in alignment with what he's saying here. Product delivery, he split product delivery into product quality assurance and product delivery as separate functions. And interesting is he has even less of the senior levels involved in product QA. That's interesting to me.
That is interesting, but the flip side is interesting too. He has the opposite end of the spectrum, the darkest in hue, right?
I'm kind of with him on this one. I think he nailed this one. I think this is right. It's like the APMs, they're going to make sure that everything that they're told, they're doing what they're told, and they're going to be ticking all the boxes, making sure everything works.
Right.
If you're not advanced in a lot of these other realms, this is where you could make an impact.
You could,
That makes sense.
absolutely. You're just beginning your journey there, and the leadership at the other end really don't care about that.
Feature specification. It's interesting because it has a very similar fade out to the QA track, where once you get above, like, it even fades out sooner. Where APM, PM, the ICPM seems to have this nailed in his estimation, and then it starts fading out in product leader quite a bit, and then it's gone by the time you get to the VP CPO level.
Right.
So he's saying someone who's up here just throwing out strategy and like living at the executive level, he's saying like they just have no time to do this skill. I mean, maybe even if they did this skill in the past, they have no time to do it. They're not going to do it. That kind of stuff.
Well, they're delegating it to all these gazillion layers underneath.
Right. It sounds funny to say I agree with this, because the scary thing about this feature specification, like fading out at the group product level, because the group product level is, again, these are like your product team lead types of folks, and then he's even fading out of the director level. So what happens with, like, who coaches the APMs? He's saying the APMs are really good at this.
Right.
I mean, who coaches them to be really good at this? Who's checking in with them being really good at this?
They're hired into it, I guess.
I mean,
right? APMs are typically green. They come in with no or little experience, really, and they're suddenly hitting the ground running with feature specs, defining functionality, setting goals. I don't know.
I mean, or it's the senior PMs. So this is like the IC PMs are basically like keeping themselves on track, keeping themselves honest, checking each other, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
This is probably the category I'm going to agree with him the most on. That, yes, these skills do fade out. I do worry, though, about the feature specification and like quality assurance being completely missing at high levels, which is actually in line with my actual experience.
Right.
These things are missing.
They are.
The people at high level are like, I just asked you to add this thing to the application. Why is it taking so long? I don't understand. I'm like, actually, the thing you asked is like 5 features.
It's going to take us a month or so to deliver.
And they don't understand because they truly don't understand, because they've only ever worked sales in their previous career, or they worked as a chief revenue officer. And now they got hired in your small company as a chief product officer.
So you bring up a good point here. So when somebody's at a certain level, it's how they got there. Right. Did they come up through the ranks doing the craft, the trade, and learning the stuff? And now they've evolved beyond the day-to-day. That's one scenario. The other scenario is, they get hired in, either out of B schools or other venues, jump ship from one company to another, cross roles, like you said, COO, now you're a CPO or whatever. So when you are in that situation, what happens to not only those immediately below them, but then, the domino effect, right? Yeah. How do you get skills? How do you get mentored, right? How do you learn? So all of those questions are relevant here. The more layers you have like this, well, let me think about this, because I was going to say the more layers you have, the more apparent it would be. But now I'm checking myself, thinking it might be less apparent, right? Because there's more noise to get buried into.
Well, I was going to say, with this particular thing, when you hire a lot of people that don't have like feature specification, for example, in this like, we did a podcast on like, should I hire a business domain PM or a PM, right? Sorry, I should go find the podcast number, but I'm trying to race through this podcast. In that podcast, we said, okay, well, most companies will hire a mix. They don't want to hire a whole bunch of people from the business, and now we've got nobody with actual PM experience, and maybe vice versa, right? In this one, I wonder, you're going to leverage those senior PMs that you have that know how to do the product management job, and you're going to lean on them when your group and director level folks can't coach.
Right.
So the problem is going to get masked because your employees are going to work between themselves to figure out how to fill these gaps. Just be good team partners. They're trying to be good team partners. And people might listen to this podcast and say, oh, that's great. You're being cross-functional. Everything's great. But I mean, at an employee level, like the level of frustration is like growing to be like, hey, why do we keep hiring these people that I've got to stop working on my stuff, come over, help them out, and like come review time, none of that is reflected. I haven't been promoted to group product manager because we still got too many we got too many L4s
Right.
and I'm an L3 and blah blah blah.
Yeah. So unless you're measured on that stuff, mentoring others, etc., this doesn't work.
All right,
Let's move on to the next level. So that was execution.
That was the excellence of execution. All right, where's Bret Hart at when I need him? All right, where are we at? Here we go. All right, so I don't need his categories. So he goes on to customer insight. That's his next category. Product managers are cultural ambassadors for their customers. They understand customer needs and they represent those needs to the rest of the team. The very best PMs go a step further. They empathize with the people their products serve, and they care deeply about whether that product improves those people's lives. Okay, so there are 3 subgroupings under customer insight, and those 3 subgroupings are, number 1, fluency with data, right? The ability to use data to generate actionable insights, to connect goals to business outcomes, that kind of thing. Voice of the customer, the ability to leverage user feedback to understand how users engage with the product and make better decisions. And then user experience design, or UX, right? Working with the design team to help them figure out what ease of use things to prioritize over other things. He uses a bunch of consulting speaking here. The ability to understand the modern practices of UX designers and apply it to your application to make things easier to use, faster, less frustrating, make a more pleasant experience for the user.
Just reduce the friction for your users.
Right. It's much easier to summarize what these things are when I don't even look at the screen.
Exactly.
So in here, let's talk about, do they need this skill right quick?
Yep.
Fluency with data. He has this skill kind of questionably coming in as an APM, learns it, and then it's solid for every other role.
Fluency with data is solid for every other role, and he has 7 roles here, right? So APMs, I mean, if these are your college folks coming in, they got to know the quantitative techniques at least, but they may not be fluent in how to interpret that, right? And use it in your context. Okay, I'll go with that. The PMs, senior PMs, etc., yeah, they really need to have those skills, right? But then when you look at the top end of that spectrum, fluency with data at the leadership level has not been my experience. My experience has been they just want to see a chart, basically.
Or a dashboard.
Or a dashboard, right, exactly. So don't deep dive in there. Show them at a highly abstracted level the data that basically forms a picture, right?
Yep.
Don't show them the pixels.
This one's difficult to play the old arguing agile game because hard pass, I don't agree that senior director, VP, the chief product officer, like, it's nice to say like, oh, they should be able to read data and be very fluent with it, whatever. But like, my experience has been the exact opposite. Actually, show me a single pane of glass is what I get from
exactly.
Like this.
Right. Yeah. So this one is easy to disagree with. We both agree to disagree on the fluency with data.
Well, let's get to it. Let's get to it. Actually, you know what? Before we move off of this one, let me hit one other category. I want to highlight how, will they coach this skill? And I really disagree. I don't think I've ever heard coaching on fluency with data from top down.
No.
I've heard rambling is about what widgets or whatever they want on their dashboard, but that's not fluency with data.
No, that's right. Yeah, I agree with you. So those people at the top end of this spectrum aren't even really familiar with the latest data analysis techniques, right? They're probably not familiar with those. So how would they be coaching down? I don't know.
The way that all executives coach down, just yelling.
Yell and get it to me yesterday.
That's right. The next category, voice of the customer, do they need this skill in the different levels? The ICPM, product leader, VP CPO. I want to say, I want to push back against what he has here because I think they all need the voice of the customer skill. And I think at the different levels, you're dealing with different customers.
Yep.
I mean, to the CPO, their customer might be investors, strictly, where they don't talk to any users or whatever. They seem disconnected from the needs of the users. But if you want to get funding to keep, if you want to get your Series B or whatever, the CPO should be really in tune with those customers. And maybe you might want to say those are not real customers, Brian. Yeah,
they sort of are.
Sort of. But if you really think about product management in terms of running the business, they kind of are.
Yeah. This one is interesting because the APM has the darkest shade here, which means that they have the ability, I guess, right? It says that underneath, the ability to leverage user feedback in all its forms I'm going to lean against that and say the APM possibly doesn't have that ability.
Yeah.
Right? The APM doesn't have that ability to the utmost level compared to those in the middle there.
Right.
Because you've had some days under your belt now, right? If you're a senior PM, for example, you would be, I think your ability would be sharper there than it would be when the day you first came in, right? That's what I think.
Yeah.
Now, then it fades out at the other level, right? Again, I don't agree with that. Voice of the customer, at, like to your point about different levels. So your executives are engaging with your customers at different levels than your PMs are, your engineering teams are.
Right.
And you still need to be able to understand and relate to your customers.
The big reason I disagree with these levels is because I feel strongly that the experience to coach voice of the customer, I think everybody should be coaching voice of the customer down to the next level below them. Like the chief product officer or whatever should be voicing their, like, oh, the investor's this, the investor's that, down to the director level folks, and then should be able to coach them on how to kind of talk to and elicit these opinions, how to interview without bias, like things like this, that like I think everybody should have this skill. It's probably one of the more important skills.
I agree with that. I think it's one of the most important skills because at the very top level, it's not just about coaching down. It's also about succession planning, right? You're thinking about who's going to take your seat as you move through, right?
Now, in reality, I think his chart's right.
Yeah. So in reality, this is how most companies are set up, right? Except for that first piece, the APM.
No, I think in reality, I think his whole chart for voice of the customer, I think is right. I think the APMs are the people that read Inspired. They just got out of school. They were just told like, oh, be agile, pivot with what the customer like. I mean, they're the ones.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
They're the ones with the theory is ringing in their head, and like the VPs are like, I don't understand. I told them every customer wants this. They should just build what I say. In reality, I think this chart is 100% accurate. The further up in the company you go, the more disconnected you get with the actual people that use your software.
Absolutely.
And the more assumptions you make. And because they were your ideas and you think you're very smart,
drive them home.
Yes. I think in reality, this is true. But if I'm going to hold a mirror to this category and hold it up, I think if you're hiring a director, product management director or something like that, or a chief product officer, they should have some good, solid techniques for really getting to the heart of the problem fast, identifying the problems fast, and that's all this voice of the customer stuff. When you hire them, you're going to hire them, and then it's going to be, I don't know how long until they learn that skill on your dime.
Or don't, and they move on.
Or don't, and they become a train wreck. But again, like, think of what you could have had in a chief product officer if you hired somebody who had that skill versus didn't have that skill and then eventually learned into. Obviously, like the worst case scenario is like you hire somebody, they didn't have that skill, you thought they did, they never learn it, they're very arrogant, they wash out after a year and a half, and you wasted a bunch of money and time and opportunity. The other, like I think the scarier side of that is the person that like you hire and then it takes them 2 years at a chief product officer level to grow into being able to ask good questions. Because like, what could you have had for 2 years while this person learned that skill? That
opportunity cost is huge, or it can be huge.
It's gone.
Yeah.
And a whole industry might have moved on.
Right.
So the UX and design experience, like when I started this, I didn't agree with his, like, he has a very niche area of career field expertise. It's like, hey, right in that role where it's like the most senior of PMs and like the people that are like team lead, kind of like just moving into product leadership type of role, like they're the only ones that are experts at this, can coach this, you know what I mean? Basically, he's saying also like use this on a regular basis. And I said to myself when I first saw this chart, like, that can't be true. Like UX has to be like all these people have read Marty Kagan, they know UX has to be like an integral part of your day. You got to be a triad. Or if you're someone selling AI tools on the internet, you got to be an army of one, but you got to be doing all this stuff. But he's saying only these two are actually good at it, practicing it.
I mean, the middle of the bell curve he has here, for me, the tails are a little bit wider.
Yeah.
I think at the PM level, it wouldn't be this faded out, for me at least, right? Yeah. And likewise at the director level. Again, we're assuming that people weren't just simply hired in without the appropriate experience and so forth. They actually know their craft.
Well, I mean, some shops, Holy Trinity, the designer, the lead engineer, and the product manager, they work for different people on paper. the tech lead works for the engineering manager, and the product person works for the group PM or director of product, and then the UX person works for some UX.
Especially in matrixed organizations, yeah.
So from that perspective, I could see where this chart is implying that you only manage the product people. So your director of product, if they've never managed UX people, you know what I mean? Like it's a small shop, maybe all these people will be under engineering or product or something like that. Basically what I'm arguing here is I could see his divisions here. I could pretty easily see. I've kind of come around to this.
I'm still thinking that your PM really does need to understand deeply UX.
I think you're right.
Designers.
Let's highlight the PM block a little bit more. The individual contributor PM. This is one of the first skills that you should be learning, collaborating with your UX designer to say like, hey, I think this feature is important. What can we do to make sure we get adoption, make it easy to work with, that kind of stuff, and to really take their suggestions into consideration. I agree with that. You're contrasting with the voice of the customer you just talked about in the previous category. Just build this.
Right.
What do you got to do an A/B test with these two different style buttons, one with a nice, rounded corners and drop shadows and stuff like that, and then just like a blank 1997 button. Like, who cares?
That's right.
Just add a button. They can do whatever. It doesn't,
Just build it and they'll come.
The reality of this one is it conflicts with the previous category. Where like you dare I say, we're like on the further end of the spectrum where he has like VP/CPO like grayed out completely. You say, like, oh, they're not going to have this skill at all. Especially people that come in and are salespeople. They get hired into a chief product officer, or COOs that get hired into a chief product officer position. They're likely they've never worked with any UI design or UX experience tools or people. But they're probably not going to respect it as a discipline. Maybe they do. I don't know.
But they won't have the ability. I think this is what he's talking about here, ability. So,
and they won't be able to coach it. So, like I said, I started with this one where I saw his interpretation is very narrow. And I was like, it can't be that narrow. But in the course of our discussion, I'm like, actually,
it can be.
I think it can be that narrow.
Yeah.
And I think it usually is pretty narrow, where the UX folks have to really, and also if you're going to shuffle user research people under UX, those people have to fight for their salaries. When you have this person who's like, I know what the customer needs, just build what I say. What do we need an army of UX researchers for?
Absolutely correct. Trust me on this.
Yeah. So his next category is product strategy. We've many podcasts, Arguing Agile 103 on product strategy, mission, vision, strategy.
Yeah.
He gives a little quote about product strategy. He says, unlike a standalone decision or goal, a strategy is a coherent set of analyses. I love saying analyses. Concepts, policies, arguments, and actions that respond to a high-stakes challenge. Not like a high-stakes
casino bet?
Casino. Yeah, not like a high-stakes poker game at the Casino Royale. But unlike a standalone feature or OKR, good product strategy requires PMs to consistently deliver features that build towards a coherent roadmap that enables a company to achieve its overall strategy. That was tough to knock that out in one breath. All right, let's talk about product strategy. So I'm gonna take some umbrage. Yeah, that was a good one.
I like that.
Umbrage. Yeah, you like that one?
From the word umbra, where the word umbrella is derived from.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm learning some today. I'm going to take some umbrage with this one. I don't use the word umbrage lightly. All right, like I can jump into a tree's shadow and go to the nether realm or whatever. Yeah, my kids play too much Minecraft. All right, so product strategy, right? That's the section, product strategy. I think this is probably where I'm going to start disagreeing with things, okay? So he has 3 categories under product strategy: business outcome ownership, the ability to drive meaningful outcomes for the business connected to product functionality and goals, right? Strategic objectives. So taking your strategy, turning it into goals, like going back to our mission, vision, strategy, goals type of thing. Taking your strategy, turning it into goals, driving those goals into your roadmap, and actually delivering things. Okay. His next category is product vision and road mapping. All right. The ability to define, I'm going to read his whole thing without editing it, just so I can align with what he's saying. The ability to define an overall vision for the PM's area of the product that connects to the strategy for the team and the company. The ability to define a clear roadmap of highly prioritized features and initiatives that deliver against that vision. And I want to read the final category, strategic impact, the ability to understand and contribute to the business strategy for a PM's team and the company overall. The ability to bring strategy to fruition through the consistent delivery of business outcomes. Okay, so business outcome ownership, like owning an outcome, not just a feature.
Right.
That's what I heard out of that one. I don't see that's different from the product delivery in the earlier. He separated them, and I understand why he separated them, because from his experience, he's kind of an operations guy. Just get things done. Don't worry too much about like finding the right thing to do. Just kind of do what I tell you to do in the order I tell you to do it. That's what I think of as operations, right? So, but he's saying like it's a different talent than just delivering things, to figure out what business outcome levers to pull to make a real impact. I think that's the first category here.
Okay, let's go with that. But then all of the 7 levels are lit up.
I'm completely okay with his categorization there.
So business outcome ownership for an APM. How does an APM own the outcome of strategic objectives here?
I think that they take ownership of it when they hear about the business strategy and the goal coming from that strategy, and they take the whole goal and say, hey, I'm going to make this goal my goal.
So they align their delivery to the goal, right?
So if I were an APM in a very large company, I would hook myself, my whole career, everything to one goal from a strategy. And I would fiercely deflect everything that didn't have to do with that one goal. And I would just defend my little turf of my one goal and make a real deep impact with my one goal. That's how I would do it as an APM. Because again, I don't have a lot of experience, so I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. So I want to make sure that my mistakes are in line with just the one. Like an APM, I think what I'm saying, I'm a little bit facetious in this category, but I think with an APM, if you're being viewed as more junior, I think you can get away with trying to scope your work with a little bit of blinders on. Whereas when you're a senior PM, this doesn't really fly.
Yeah, but you don't own the outcome. That's my point here. As an APM, you can't. You don't have the experience to own outcomes. You're basically producing outputs.
You also don't have the. I mean, in reality, you don't really have the seniority either.
You don't. Like, you're just basically an order taker at that stage.
An outcome for me might be to drive, like, oh, I wrote the back-end API data endpoint. I need to drive it to one of my teams that has a product with a UI and a front end for them to use and call my API endpoint to surface it to customers, or to surface it to more customers. Maybe my tool is tiny. And I understand, like, well, this is an experience kind of thing.
Absolutely, it
partially.
is. Yeah.
But I would say I would lightly push back against what you're saying by asking, does the APM need this skill? I think that's a yes. Like, they really need this skill.
They do need the skill, but they don't necessarily have it day one.
I agree.
That's why I'm saying that the business outcome ownership for an APM, I can't really align myself with that. I think for a PM, yes.
Sure.
You can start to own things, right? Sure. But as an APM, you're basically taking orders.
Okay. Is there anybody in this swim lane, ICPMs, product leaders, VPs, CPOs, is there anyone that does not need to be able to coach this skill or be coached on this skill? I think, again, the highlighting here that he has, I think is great for this question. Is like everybody needs to be actively seeking coaching
for sure
in this skill.
So those that are up there in the upper end of the spectrum, if they don't have it, then they can't really coach those below them and so forth. Business outcome ownership. This isn't taught in schools. You basically learn this through experience, right? Which is why I say the APM probably doesn't have it. They need it. They need to learn it.
Product vision and road mapping. This is a tough one because I'm not really sure that this is a real category. The ability to define overall vision for the PM's area of the product that connects to the strategy. The ability to define a clear roadmap of highly prioritized features. So I think what he really means is the ability to create and maintain a prioritized roadmap.
That fulfills the strategy, right?
Yeah.
So again, looking at this, the VPs at the top, they're just setting the strategies. They're not creating the roadmap.
Yeah, I'm with you already. Like, I would just shift this whole thing. Actually, I would probably reverse the way that he has this. So he has the first one completely grayed out. The APM is completely grayed out. I mean, maybe we can quibble a little bit about it. We've been beating up the APM in this podcast quite a bit. I think at the CPO level, product vision and roadmap, like even a strategy, I've seen very few VPs of product chief product officers who even can come up with a mission, vision, strategy. They even have a tough time. This is like director, group product manager level type of stuff. Those are the people that I've observed that are really good at saying, like, I think our company strategy is this. I think our product strategy, if you have a separate one, is this. I think our goals are these. And the goals might be a negotiation with the product managers, like the individual contributor product managers. But yeah, I would flip his chart the opposite direction.
Yeah, I concur with that.
Because even the APM, like, you want to get the APMs and the individual contributor PMs involved in all the road mapping stuff, because they are the ones that have to carry out the roadmap.
And they need to know how to craft those, right? So yeah, absolutely agree.
All right, strategic impact, the ability to understand and contribute to the business strategy for the PM's team and company. This ability to bring a strategy to the fruition through the consistent delivery of business outcomes. I've read it twice now, and I don't understand how it's different than the first
It's
category.
the same thing in different words.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, that's what you do when you're in consulting professionally. You repeat the same thing over and over again.
Yep, and you distill everything down to a 2x2.
Give it a different score. So even if you, like, if we took for a second and just pretended that this was a standalone swim lane, strategic impact, why wouldn't every category be highlighted?
Good point. Absolutely.
Just like business outcome ownership, like every category was highlighted. Everybody should be. I mean, why would you work on anything that doesn't have strategic impact?
You're just wasting time at that point and resources, right? So yeah, agreed.
That makes no sense. All right, speaking of no sense, let's move on to the next category. So let's move on to the last section called influencing people. He says, peak PMs know that they're only as effective as their team. Like, they view themselves as the connective tissue within the organization. Whoa. I do not view myself as tissue. Thank you very much. That was when I worked in the Air Force. I would always hear, like, we need more bodies over here. We need more bodies over here. I'm like, I'm not a body to be passed around. Thank you very much.
I'm a nobody.
Ooh, I ain't got nobody. Where's David Lee Roth?
Yeah.
As they take on roles of increasing scope and responsibility, they learn how to build and mentor strong PM teams. Peak PMs, I've said peak so many times, the word is starting to lose all meaning. Peak PMs are able to multiply their impact by enabling the people around them to contribute to and own the business impact necessary to achieve the company strategy. I really like some of this sentence, which is the best product managers are able to multiply their impact by enabling the people around them.
Yep, they're force multiplier.
He could have said that in one sentence. But the consulting version of this is to stretch it out because you get paid by words. It's very Dickensian is what I'm saying. So
Yes.
in the influencing people category, he has 3 subcategories. He has stakeholder management, team leadership, and managing up. Ooh, boy.
These are good categories.
Managing up, that's salt in the wound, managing up here. All right, so for stakeholder management, he says, the ability to proactively identify stakeholders impacted by the PM's area of ownership and to work with those stakeholders to factor their requirements into product decisions. Okay, so for those of you, again, who can't see this, almost every category is highlighted, but the APM and the PM, so the low level, well, actually, the most of the individual contributor PMs are kind of like grayed out on this stakeholder management. Before you get in here, I'm going to say, I don't like this. I don't like this because this is another one of those categories I see in the opposite direction. Actually, yeah. I see the VPs and the chief product officers, the more senior people, like they're the ones that don't really talk to most people on a regular basis. The people that are constantly just hammering stakeholder communication at an overwhelming pace should be the individual contributor PMs.
Exactly that. I was going to suggest that I vehemently disagree with the color shading on this and would flip it, basically. Because the VPs, the senior people, right, they're not really worried about identifying stakeholders and how to make sure that the product manager's realm, the product decisions, as he says here, impact those stakeholders. Like they're way above that, right? So your APMs, PMs, possibly the senior PM, CPOs, perhaps, that's the color shading that I would put on this.
I sort of agree with that. I mean, there's a pushback here to say, like, well, if they have to coach these skills, there's an argument to say, like, your chief product officer should be able to break down a segmented group of stakeholders and identify their communication needs and really help you say, hey, we're not doing enough here. We're not doing enough there. In reality, what I've seen is, in fact, quite the opposite. The people with the marketing skills and whatnot, like they're in marketing. And sometimes you'll get like a, maybe not a chief product officer, you'll get a high level product person whose background is not in product management, it's in product marketing, but maybe the company can't tell the difference between product marketing and product management. And then those people will really identify, those people really will be able to segment stakeholder groups quickly and easily, because they really naturally understand, like, these people really care about this, and those people really care about that, and I'm going to completely separate those groups. And they can help you a lot with your lines of communication, but how typical that is, I don't know. Like my experience,
I've seen VPs coaching down this particular skill, but I have seen the occasional savvy, experienced, veteran salesperson do this because they understand the landscape of the stakeholders, right? Yeah. So they can do that.
And that's a great thing to point out. We normally look at people in that role, like people that only ever worked in sales and then became like a chief product officer. I normally will look at that negatively because there's a lot that is not on the table in that scenario. But if you're looking at it, if you're an individual contributor product manager and you work under someone like that, you have an opportunity to say, hey, what can I learn from this person?
Right.
Well, this stakeholder segmentation, like what actually could impact and hit the hardest with this audience? Yeah, reach out, because that actually is in their wheelhouse. The rest of the stuff, how to actually do product, like they can't help you with that. So I guess keep your resume updated and listen to the Arguing Agile podcast. So the next category here is team leadership, the ability to manage and mentor direct reports. Team leadership, mentoring, more junior folks, or helping out your peers, I guess, too. Because again, sometimes maybe you've got a mix of individual contributor PMs. Some of them were hired with industry experience. Some of them were hired with PM experience, and they don't have the industry experience. So like, you want that team working together, meshing together, and teaching each other.
Reaching across the aisle, I agree. This color shading isn't too far off for me. I think this is good because the junior folks, they're not leaders. So if they become leaders by being mentored by those that are, now we're in the middle of that spectrum. And likewise, at the top of them, these people at the very top, execs and leaders, they didn't become leaders just through their technical skills or anything. They become leaders because they're good people, right? They know how to work with people. So if they coach down and mentor down, that can work. So team leadership, I think, is pretty close to, how I would have put it.
That's interesting because I would apply what you just said to the next category, to the managing up category. I would say the more senior you get in this track, individual contributor, product leader, CPO, the better you are at managing up. And I would say the only reason you got that promotion to that level is because you're really good at managing up. And I would say like the team leadership thing would be switched in the opposite direction. I would hope that it is the way that you're presenting it.
Yeah, like that's the ideal.
I would hope that, like in the military, for example, the people that are in the role of general or admiral or whatever, like the flag officers, I would hope that they have the leadership skill where no matter what team they're with, new team, temporary team, go to a conference and they get assigned with a group of people, they can quickly whip that group into a working, functional unit very quickly, just because of their honed skill at leadership that they've honed over an entire career. Just naturally, it seems natural to everyone else. It's not actually natural. It's honed over a whole career.
That's right.
Of working with teams. But like in my experience, it's actually not, again, in product, that is not true, only because the people at the most senior levels of product, it's very hit or miss where they came from.
For product specifically, yes, that's very true. Some of the times when you look at these leaders at the very top in product specifically, and you wonder if they've worked on a product before.
Well, where I got hung up with this one, with this team leadership category, is with the graphic he has here, it implies the people at the most senior levels should be able to coach those skills down.
Yes.
But I've seen the direct opposite.
Yeah, this is ideal, right? This is how we wish it was, but the real life scenarios are very different. Yeah.
So the last one, managing up. So I already played my hand with managing up. I already showed you all my cards with managing up. I think the managing up track here is correct. I think the people at the top of the organization, they've become very good at managing up. And if I was to change the name of managing up to something else, they'd be good at that too.
Yeah, we can't do that. This is a family podcast.
Yeah.
I agree with that too. I mean, look, it is what it is, right? This actually aligns to what we see in real life too, right? people that are up there, they got up there because they know what to do.
Right.
All right, so now we're at a point where we can summarize this whole thing, right?
Okay.
I guess if I had to say this out loud, I'd say this could have been a one-pager.
Probably.
That diagram, it didn't need to be so many segments. It didn't need to be so complex. We didn't need to have 7 layers in there. But again, to your point, this may be representing the Silicon Valley model.
Well, he has some, in the end of the article, he has some takeaways to say like, hey, look at this chart and find yourself on here for what you're doing well. Find yourself on here for what you're not doing well, and then kind of evaluate yourself and, ask for help where you need help.
Yeah.
And then for people that are the product leaders here who actually hire product managers, hire better PMs. Number one, hire better PMs, obviously, right? Like people have more of these skills.
Right.
And then the other one is create a more balanced team, because you want some people with. So let me present this and put this back on the screen. So if you have this wheel, you have a lot of people that are really good at product execution and customer insight, but they're not good at influence or whatever. Like, well, maybe the next product manager you hire, they need to be good at influence and customer insight or whatever, and then you can teach them the other ones.
Right.
Like you're looking for a balance between the whole team.
Yeah, and you've also got to be realistic, right? You're not going to find a unicorn that has multitude of these different areas, right, under their belt.
Especially in your salary range.
Very true. Well said.
Yeah. So this is interesting. It's an interesting graphic. There's a lot in here. Some of these categories, we probably could have spent a little more time kind of needling some of these categories and digging in. But again, at a high level, the dimensions make a lot of sense, and they're good to talk about and they're good to understand. Like, I'm weak at some of these, I'm stronger at some of these other ones. Like, everybody is. So it's good to see them. It's good to understand them and kind of be on the lookout.
Yeah, and I think if you're a product manager looking to be a peak product manager, you could look through this. If you're already a peak product manager, though, you could look through this and come up with something else and become an apex product manager.